Welcome, Maggy Sterner, to Ordinary Visionaries. So glad to have you here.
Very happy to
So
be here.
great. So tell me, Maggie, how are you an ordinary visionary?
I'm an ordinary visionary because I see a gap. I see a way that people introduce themselves that does what I call shooting their bank account in the foot. I see how it
I
can
love that
be.
line.
Just made that up. Uh, I see how people struggle to answer the question, what do you do? And the key word in the vision is seeing, right? Visionary.
Yeah.
We as a visionary, we see something that makes us go, oh hell no, not on my watch. Or ooh, what if we see a gap or we see something where we know we could fill in and step up to make a difference. But the key part of being an ordinary visionary is anybody can see something, and then the people who take the step toward that, who step into action around that, that's the game changer. That's the bigger game.
So we talked about a little bit about this before we started the interview, and I read the information you sent me. And you had a great line here that I love, if I can find it. So you work with people that struggle to get their business going, to attract clients, and to earn the monies.
The monies, the monies.
Right.
Yeah.
And why don't we start with kind of your specialty is what do you say when people ask what I call the question? And the question is, what do you do, Maggie? And probably 89.7% of people blow that.
Make it 95.6.
Yeah. In other words, almost everybody answers this really important question wrong, thereby eliminating the possibility that anyone would ever be interested in what you have. And, this is fine in ordinary life. You're not self-employed. You don't have a business. What do you do? I work at McDonald's, whatever the heck it is. But we want to get people's attention. So give us your teaching on that.
I am a brand messaging coach, and I teach entrepreneurs how to answer the question, what do you do? So that they attract clients and make the monies. I do one thing. That's one sentence.
Yeah.
And people make up, when I first started out and started going to network events, those many years ago, I'm like, what are people like incomprehensible? They would talk about their services and how long they've been in business and where they went to school and degrees and the alphabet soup of certifications. And I also, and I'm like, wow. I literally could not understand what they did. Mostly, and here's where I made the distinction. I went, I can't tell how they can help me. People, when they say,
Yeah.
answer the question, what do you do? They stop at, I'm a brand messaging coach and I help entrepreneurs learn how to answer the question, what do you do? Period. And if I stop there, you go, I call that the so what? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so what? How nice for me that you do that. How nice for me. How nice for you. The key part of it is I do this so that you, dear prospective client, get this solution, result, pain relief medicine. The so that is the most important part of that answer to the question, what do you do?
Yeah, the thing is most people don't make the leap when they're listening to someone to see what it means for them. You have to spell it out in crystal clear language. So the thing I always said is people are thinking, what's in it for me? And if you don't answer that question, then they have nothing to go on, right?
Precisely. And how I frame it, like maybe because my brain is wired for pictures. I believe people are listening for a little word picture in their mind, a little vision. So people who say they'll say they're grammatically correct, professional sounding, beautifully punctuated, memorized introduction. 30 seconds, they've got it, they'll say it. And then I go, what just happened? I don't understand what the words are. Or they'll use jargon or like paradigm shifts and innovative. And I'm like, oh my God, adjectives are not your friend, right? It slows down the story. It's a
We have an
story.
innovative process of confabulating the
Right.
interface between
Yeah.
blah, 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 yada, yada.
Yeah, exactly. And I go,
Right.
people, dudes, people, nobody's in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning struggling with the thing that you can help them with, wishing for an innovative solution or
Right.
integrating their soul's message, they're like, I want to stop wanting to murder my husband. I want, you know what I mean? I want to feel courageous when I go out into the world. I want to like marketing instead of hating it. They're very specific. I always go specificity rules when we're too broad. So the question, what do you do, is really, how can you help me? That's the question you're really answering.
Yeah,
And there
exactly.
are things you have to know so that you can answer that question in one sentence that encompasses all of its majesty.
Yeah. So I'd like to get into this deep enough so people listening to this can really take this on. Because I've taught this in courses, I've worked with people. You've really broken it down and really understand it. So when you're working with a client, where do you start?
I start by having them do a brain dump, and I ask them to answer the question, it's a little worksheet we have. I call it just the facts, because we're looking for the facts of the situation, not the made up stories, not the yeah buts. I want to know what factual things they actually know. What do you do? How they answer that question tells me I can see exactly where they are and what they're afraid of. And I can feel the holdback. There's some people will say, well, I can't say that because then they'll think, yeah, but I call it the yeah, but. And then I say, well, and I ask, who's your target audience? Who isn't your target audience? We have to know both of those things.
Right.
Because the message is designed to attract and repel. You hear a lot about magnetic messaging. Notice how I had a little tone in my voice when I said that. But magnets literally attract and repel. So a message,
It's true.
and I'm talking in the context of, the introduction, the elevator pitch. In that context, I want to attract, and I use beacon words. Beacon words mean like, the words that people already have in their minds that they say to themselves at 3 o'clock in the morning when they're struggling. I use their words, and I want to actually repel anybody who's not a good fit. Don't call me. I have a quote from my son on my website. Years ago, he texted me, I was telling somebody about you, and I said, if you ever want your life stripped naked and spanked into action, call my mother. I was like, oh my God, you get me.
Stripped naked and spanked into action.
Call my mother. And I said, honey, you get me. But I put that on my website as a quote. It's like a testimonial, because anybody who reads that and goes, ugh, don't call me. That's my gatekeeper, my messaging gatekeeper,
Yeah, yeah.
to make sure I want the wrong people to walk away. And also I tell people, I go, I swear, sometimes a lot. And if that's not cool for you, then we're not a good fit.
Uh-huh.
So the messaging is designed to be I study the neuroscience of communication. How do we receive transmissions? How do we send them so that they will be gotten? Like, my theory is everybody just wants to get got. And if you can't just send it over the net in a clear shot, you missed it. You missed the opportunity.
Right. Well, we have another problem, another very big
Mm.
problem. People
Oh, I love
don't
problems.
listen.
Dude.
And because people
Girl.
And because people don't listen, it's even more important to have a message that can break through the clouded mind that's whatever. So, so it wakes them up a little bit. Oh, I hear what you say.
It's a wake
Because,
up. Yeah.
yeah, so a lot of the messages that we give up, the message with silly words and unnecessary adjectives and inaccurate focusing, they just
Yeah.
put people to sleep. They
Oh
go,
my God.
okay, that how
Blah, blah,
nice,
blah, bust. Yeah.
how nice for you that you do that. And you leave the networking event going, nobody likes me, nobody cares about me, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So
Right.
yeah,
And
so
rejection. And then that feeds into that's like, oh, nobody liked me. Nobody came up to me afterward. Nobody understood. And then that's like, I hate networking. And it's not about that at all. It's about, and one must take responsibility for this. Do I have the ability to communicate so clearly that people go, wow, or there's something, that's where the beacon words come in. Sometimes I'll introduce myself. I'm just like feeling into the room because it's like there's nothing to memorize. And when we do memorize, it sounds like robot speak. It's like, well, thank you, AI, for writing my message. But I'll look around the room and I'll just look at everybody and take a beat. I know the clock is ticking for my 30 seconds. And I go, wow, do you know what really makes me sad? Pause. When I
no,
hear people who are brilliant and gifted muddle their message in such a way that nobody can understand how they can be helped by you, that breaks my heart. I'm Maggy Sterner, blah, blah, blah. Right? And dude, let me tell you, people like just go, wow. It's like, because you've just now broken through the mind, and now I'm actually speaking from my heart. And when we speak from our hearts, that's when people whip out their credit cards and say, I need you. I must have you. You're the
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah, and that's pretty powerful. So tell me a few stories of messages you've helped people create, because
Love stories.
love stories.
Okay. Yeah, and a pun. Yeah, early on, I worked with a woman who worked at a division in NASA. And she was completely derailed. She had, like, her bike was in a ditch. She had to go to a conference and communicate what her department did to general people, academics, children, uh, fellow scientists, and also connect people. Like, part of her job was making sure people met each other. She did not know how to talk about what her department did. And when I say she was, her hair was on fire. She was terrified to go to this conference. So
Wow.
I said, and I have a report, I was a TV and radio reporter for CBS News. I never
Oh,
have a shortage of questions for people. So I just said, I said, well, let's start at the beginning. Tell me what your division does. And then I waited. And maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I said,
15 minutes
uh-huh.
later.
Well, but that's
You're more
okay because,
patient than I am.
well, and I asked questions in the middle, like, what does this mean? What does that mean? Because what I'm listening for the little movie that I can see of what she's describing, right?
Right, right, right.
So she's saying words and I'm going, is it like this or is it like that? And like just digging in so that I can see the picture. When I was a reporter, I had to interview people and then I had to write a 30-second piece about it. So I had to know exactly what to say and what not to say. So she's
Yeah,
talking, and as she's talking, zero fear, total confidence, beautifully articulate, passionate, all the things. And then she told me the story of what they did. And I went and I saw the pictures and I said, oh, so you're the weather people for outer space. And she went, oh, you're a genius. Oh my God, that's it. I said, okay, well,
I
yeah,
get that. You're the weather people for
yeah,
outer space?
that's what I said. That's what it was. She said, that's it. The department studies solar weather, which I didn't
Oh,
even know was a thing. So I
oh,
learned a whole new thing about the sun. But their job is studying solar weather. Aurora borealis is the thing that the sun spits out that makes the cell phone stop working. Their job is to monitor that. Once, and this was interesting, once I said, oh, you're the weather people for outer space. That's just a metaphor or an analogy or a simile. I never can
yeah,
tell which one is which. She went, oh, suddenly she knew. I saw that she now had a framework around whatever she said around that framework would be perfect. And that
great.
blew my mind. And I said, oh, so it's the picture story when the person that I'm coaching, they have to get it in their bones. I could tell them in about 10 seconds. They'll never remember it. They have to have this embodied experience of, oh, there it is, seeing it in their own mind's eye and getting it in their own DNA.
Great. Powerful. And then you worked with her to talk about that and how to
Yeah.
interact with people at the conference and
Suddenly she felt, people say, I hear the words, oh my God, I feel as if 20-pound weight just came off my back. They'll say, I feel like you gave me permission to just say it as it is.
yeah.
I don't actually give them permission. I give them questions that trigger their own insights, right? They have to, I don't know. I like deconstructing like how processes work and this step first and not that step and how to walk people through a process
Sure,
so
sure.
that they land and the goalpost is one sentence to say it.
Yeah,
It's actually one sentence to know it in your bones.
right. And they say it 500 times before you get out there.
Well,
It's
that's
sort
the
of like
booby
doing
prize.
push-ups. I'm doing push-ups these days to get strength. And it's
Uh-huh.
like it's so hard to begin with. And then after a week or two, you can do twice as many and a lot easy. It's just in the
Yes.
muscle memory.
The bodily memory, they'll say, well, I'm going to practice in the mirror a bunch before I go to the networking event. I go, well, you could, but you're not actually creating. The job is, so if you really want to get it, it's a practice, an embodied practice like you were describing with weightlifting. Exactly the same thing. You get there, and anytime anybody asks you anywhere, you say this, and you'll get it wrong, and it'll feel weird, and you won't be able to remember, and none of that matters. What matters is getting it, like just doing it, like in your body to actually build the muscle,
Yeah.
the marketing muscle, if you will.
So I'd like to hear, that's a great one. And I love that. The weather person for outer space is just, it's great. Really interesting. Yeah. And it's interesting too, because it's like, I mean, outer space and weather. Is there weather in outer space? Well, what do you mean? Well, there's solar radiation, there's cosmic rays, there's all this stuff that's affecting us on Earth.
She had
Yeah.
what I call the curse of the expert. We all have it. We know what we do
Right.
so well that we want to throw all the details in, and we can't you have to pull up to this high level. Like, what is this really? You know? And
You know,
that's where
so,
the answer to the question lives. What do you do? What is it really?
right. Something I did a lot of is I did a lot of writing in my business. I've been sent out a newsletter for 25 years and wrote a lot of stuff. And you write it and you do first draft and 50th draft of, is this clear? Is this simple? Do they understand what this is about? I'm doing an invitation, which you'll get tomorrow, to an event I'm doing online. And just nailing the, is the headline clear? Is that something they'd be interested in? It's so wordsmithing stuff is tricky. Anyway, tell me another one, please.
Okay. Another one is I had a recent client so I have what I call, my list is called words that are dead to me.
That are what?
And on the words that are dead to me. And on
Okay.
this list are words like mission driven, heart driven, heart centered. They feel to me like I feel words in my body. So when I hear those, it's like the message just grinds. The train's not making it out of the station. It slows down the impact. So I had a client recently who was a therapist for decades and now is a coach. And originally she said, radiant, I teach women how to live radiant lives, and I forget what else. She started her story with, she would introduce herself and say, for 25 years I was a therapist and and now I'm like, never speak about what you used to do, just like leave that go. And now I'm a heart-centered something something so that women can experience joy and live a radiant life. And I go, no, I'm like not getting a picture. All I'm hearing is adjectives. So she came to me
I love
because
that. All I'm hearing is adjectives.
it's like, but I'm getting no picture, right? And we're all in the audience. And I think my theory is, and we're all listening for the picture that makes us go, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
So I'm always paying attention when I say things. And I've only recently created the one sentence messaging machine. And
I like that.
when she came back to me and said, because I introduced myself saying one sentence, she said, I need one sentence. So I'm noticing how she reflected back to me. I go, okay, that worked. That validates my concept.
Yeah.
And she wanted her one message because she just felt something didn't feel right to her about it. She could feel she was all over the place and waffly. So we started digging in, and the first thing I did was I said heart driven. So when people say a word, you say impactful, I'll say, what do you mean by define impactful? What are we actually talking about? Or define heart centered. What are we actually talking about? What lives in there when you say that?
Yeah.
So deconstructing the words, I deconstructed the words, and she pushed back. Many people push back. They become infatuated with that phrase, mission driven or heart centered or soul driven, and they don't want to let go of it. And I go, dude, that phrase right there, you think it's a life preserver and it's going to connect? I said, it's actually a cinder block and it's dragging your message down. And it also has no meaning. One presumes if you're a nonprofit, you're in the mission business. As an entrepreneur, I have a mission. It's like it goes without saying. I said, if you say the right words around what you do, it's not even required to say heart driven or mission driven, right? Because it's implicit in the message. So we worked on it, and she got hung up on what to call herself because she was a that and now she was a this. And words just rise up to me. Like I see them, I feel them. I'll see little movies or metaphors sometimes. And I said, we got to the part in her introduction, I'm Karen and I said, oh, because we had already talked. I said, oh, are you a heart healing coach? And she went, wow, cried. Like, she was like, because it takes your breath away when the truth shows up, when the simple truth shows up.
Hmm.
I'm a heart healing coach. And once you know what you really do, the words fill in themselves. But we did let go of I'm like radiant, define radiant. Like I just put people through this exercise when you're saying these words, because words are precious, and you have, the job of the words is to communicate. And if you're screwing the pooch there, well, that didn't work. Nobody gets help. People need you if they can't understand you. So she came to this one sentence, and I heard her at a networking event last week introduce herself. And several people, I overheard them say, "Oh my God, your message is just so," I noticed how it's evolved over time. She said, "Well, that's Maggie." And she yelled at me. She said, I kept wanting to say heart-centered and you kept pushing back. I said, "I know. I wish you could have those words, but you can't." The end.
And it's interesting because heart-centered, heart-healing, what's the difference? But it is different because
Oh,
heart-centered
very different.
is what the heck is that? But heart-healing,
It's about them.
it's about a result.
And here's the catch. People get so freaked out about, "Oh my God, I got to stand up and own my thing and say it." I go, it's not about you at all. It's about who? It's about them. When we take the focus off ourselves, I'm looking at the room, at the people, and I'm thinking, what does my heart want to say to them? It's like, it just broke my heart to hear people throw down 1,000,000 degrees and certifications, and now I don't know what's happening.
Something else,
It's
Maggie,
about them.
yes. Despite the fact of online, Zoom, email, all our technology, AI, none of that replaces a great message. I mean, you got to have this message, and it's something that you have to process like you've been talking to us about. You have to, and often you're just not going to get it by yourself. Sometimes you do. You'll hear this and you'll have some breakthroughs and you'll figure it out. But sometimes you need some help with this. Tell me another one. I love these.
Let me think of another one. Okay. So a woman came to me recently to invite me. I don't know. A friend said, "Oh, Alex does web design, and I thought she should connect with you because anyway, I don't know what." Excuse me. So I talking to Alex, and she started telling me what she did, and I'm like, "Wait, web design isn't even what you like doing. Do you like it? Do you want to do that?" I said, "Is it?" And it turned out, when I dug deeper, when I got real curious about, she just thought web design could be something she could offer. Like, oh, I can do that. And I've seen that bear trap show up a lot. Just because we can do it doesn't mean we ought to. Like, do what makes you happy. Do what's fun. Do what lights you up. Because that's where the juice lives. And when you got the juice, that's what clients are attracted to. So she had this roster of 1,000,000 different things. She was a CTO, Chief Technology Officer, for a company, and now she was working on her own and wanted to create a business as a tech consultant for entrepreneurs. I know tech. I've been in the tech business. And when she listed out all the things, I said, wow, that is a list. And as we drilled down into it, she discovered what she really cared about was helping women feel comfortable and unafraid to use technology. The real deal.
Yeah.
What technology she would teach them, or how she would how she would speak about it, more drilling, because I understand all the ramifications. I speak fluent tech. So I said, and what I'm seeing in the world is people, because I use Google Drive, Docs, the whole shebang. Women are like, "Oh, I don't understand where's my thing?" So I said, "Alex, could you choose?" This is a choice. It's not I hope and wish this comes to me. Could you choose teaching entrepreneurs how to run their business using Google Drive? She said 100,000%. So now she gets up at networking events and says that. Are you struggling? Do you you can never find anything in Google Drive? Or like you're trying to do something and everybody's Google, 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 but you're not, and it's freaking you out? I'm Alex. I help you learn how to use Google Drive to run your business so that your business runs like an well-oiled machine, and you feel confident using it. The end. Period. Call me. I'll take money. Right? But like that to me illustrates it's like taking a giant thing and winnowing it down to its essence, not for me, for her, so that she has to see the picture first.
Yeah.
And it's always a choice.
When I have conversations like this, my mind starts spinning with possibilities and various things.
What's spinning in your mind?
Well, I'm really into ChatGPT. I use it almost every day for various things, and I wonder if there are consultants out there teaching people how to use AI and ChatGPT in their business in various ways. There's opportunities there. There's opportunities, I'm sure.
Well, the one I've seen is how to use ChatGPT as a tool to generate, like, let's say I write my about page, write Maggy Sterner's about page. It'll pop up some things, and then, and I'll say, I've considered offering this, how to take an AI generated piece of content and make it and write it in your own voice, so that it doesn't sound like The Walking Dead just wrote that.
Right. Well, it's pretty amazing what it will write, and sometimes it's pretty damn good. It really is good.
Occasionally, I've put written. I've just always been a person who can write the thoughts in my head. Like, I have a voice and I use it.
Yeah.
And I've written posts for social media or email newsletters in my voice, and I say F and whatever. And I throw that into ChatGPT, I go, rewrite this for me, please. And it comes back with words I would never say that don't sound like me. People read my things. I have like a 50% open rate for my emails, which high between 40 and 50%. I go, that's interesting. That tells me people want to hear what I have to say. So say more, right? But the AI, the trap is, it's not us. This is my philosophy. There are great ideas to be had, right? A course called create a course called how to market your whole business with one sentence. And then it'll give me the whole rundown, which I'll take under advisement. I think AI, when AI works best is when we don't copy paste it. It's when we interact with it in our own. I think finding our voice. Now that I think of it, I hear this a lot. People want to be able to speak in their own voice, as they are, not my voice. I don't teach people to say things in my voice, but in their own voice. That ownership. My mission is all people own and express their brilliance, and I might add, in their own voice. Period.
Yeah. So tell me, it sounds, you have something that's sort of laser focused in terms of working with people and their messaging, but you could do that in one session, but do you do more than that? Or where does that go? What does that look like? Because there's often, okay, now I've got my message, but now, as we've been speaking about, I need some marketing materials. I need an about page on my website. I need to explain what I do. And people are really bad about that as well. I mean, anytime we're talking about our business, it's like, sometimes you'll read the copy I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Anything?
On any website. Yeah, but well, sometimes you'll go to a website and it's well done and it's pretty clear. Sometimes you'll go to a website, you read it through, and you go, I still have no frickin' idea what they do.
Zero clue.
Yeah.
No clue.
So do you help people with
Yeah.
that too?
Yes. The steps that I use, in terms of teaching people in an hour, yes. And it takes a minute. It has to get integrated into their bones. And
Right.
a knowing has to show up that, oh, there it is. I call that the face of Jesus in the tortilla moment. Once you see it, you'll never unsee it. And that
Ever
that's the
seen Jesus
actual
in a tortilla, by the way?
Mary and burnt toast, you know. But that's the moment I'm shooting for, because once that happens, that can often happen in one session because I'm really laser focused on
Yeah.
getting there. Like that's the whole point, because it's not about memorization or remembering or having to read it, because if you don't know it in your bones, it's not coming from your heart. And that's where clients come from, heart connections. Anyway, so the process is first we get that one sentence message. I framework it in a longer version, one sentence, and then 100 characters, because that's where your mind really gets focused. That's when we're hitting the bottom line, cut to the chase. And then once that's done, it's like, okay, now we have the foundation for all the marketing materials. That one sentence is the foundation for, okay, now what's most important to you? Let's go write a lead magnet. Let's create a signature talk that delivers clients. And all of it stems from that message. Okay, now all your website copy has to be rewritten. I worked in the web business at NPR and the Campaign for Tobacco Free Kids. And I'm like, I do content and tech and user experience. So we go, okay, so all of the marketing materials come from that one sentence. So there's no doing anything of communicating or marketing until the one sentence gets nailed. And it evolves, it fleshes out, it shifts. That's how it is. It's not ever locked down. It's a living thing. It's a living entity. So, but first the messaging then comes, and that's where I do business coaching, how to have a sales conversation. Oh, before I can do that, I need to have, what am I offering? Packages and prices. Oh, so what do I build my email list? So it's about prioritizing what they need. If they need to
Sure.
bring in the monies real fast, I go, great. Sometimes the fastest way to bring in the monies can be giving talks, offer to do free talks, brown bag lunches, whatever. Get out there, say what you do, and then have an invitation at the end that you can sign up for a call with me, and then you can come work with me. So there's that. I hate to use this word, but I will. Funnel. First
Yep.
we get them right, and so based, on what I watch what all the marketers that I admire do. We get them in the door with little things, and then we can drive them up to long-term coaching or whatever floats your boat. Like, I have no rules about what you have to do. I
Sure.
base what I teach people afterward on what's most important to them.
Where do you live and where do you network?
I live right now in Portland, Oregon, and I say right now because I've moved a million times. Uh, I network at local networking groups, live in person here in Portland. Super fun. This is an entrepreneurial town, which is, I just moved here a couple of years ago from Washington, D.C.
Uh-huh.
So I love that entrepreneurial spirit. And I already knew a lot of really smart entrepreneurs, fun people, like idea people. So it felt like, oh, my people are there, which that DC had lost that feeling for me. So
Hmm.
I network in person as much as possible. I just gave a talk at a networking event. Every time I do a talk, I get new clients. So it's always and plus every time I do a talk, every time I communicate my message, it creates me. Like, I create, oh yes, this is who I am. Oh, this is what my purpose is. Like, I remember who I am and what my vision is, because why else would I get dressed every day if I was unaware of that? So, and also online, I belong to an incredible networking group called HeraHub. Herahub, entrepreneurs based in San Diego. The woman who created it, she is a leader that I would like to be like when I grow up. And they have a lot of online learning and networking, and because of, thank God for COVID, everybody had to move to an online space. So it makes it possible for me to stay connected with that group online. So I do a lot of online networking, and it's good for me to practice what I say, to say what I do.
So how is
None of
that
us is
online
immune.
networking different than uh, Twitter/X or Facebook or those or LinkedIn, which is big for businesses?
Depending on who the leader is, and the networking event is always a reflection of the person who's leading it. It's it's interactive. Well, it requires that you show up in like your 3D self, embodied, once again, this embodied experience. And I don't, on social, and I think if I don't ever, Twitter, I just read it for I don't know, the hilarity. Black people are funny. And Facebook, again, I think it comes down to, I just keep getting the word voice. In person or online or out loud, we are required, our voice needs to make it over the net. I always think of tennis like a tennis metaphor.
Right.
We want to, and that requires, no matter where you go, whether you're online or out loud, it requires a groundedness in who am I? What is my vision for others? I have a vision for my business, but I have a vision for what's possible for them. That must be communicated so that people go, oh, Maggie is someone who can help me. Something you said, and they never repeat back to me what I actually said, ever.
But something clicks in the brain.
Something. I'm hearing a lot of one sentence. I want one sentence. Oh my God, I don't have one sentence. And I'm like, so I get connected in their minds because I don't know. I'm not them. And we cannot have our own experience of ourselves. I hired a brand coach when I was starting out, a strategist. I didn't know the answer to what do you do. I was a freshly minted coach after a career in broadcast journalism and a million other things. And it helped me learn how to, and I didn't even know elevator pitches were a thing until I went out into the world and saw how people lost their minds and couldn't say a simple answer to what do you do. So I'm like, I guess I could coach them about that.
Really interesting. I always
It's all made
found
up.
it's all made up. It's all a game. We're all playing it. We're in this thought space and communication space and word space. We're connecting or we're not. But if we're not connecting, that's really frustrating. Obviously, you go to, you get dressed up, you have your business cards, you're excited about what you do, and everything you say falls flat.
And
So
that feels horrible. No,
exactly.
it's like, I just went to I participated in an event recently where I didn't feel gotten nor seen. And I got to tell you, it felt horrible. It rattled my cage and shook me
This
bad and
happened
hard.
recently?
Yeah, recently.
Why
And
was that?
like,
What was the group?
it was oh shit, I hope I don't want to give away like too much information here. The leader, the
Uh-huh.
leader, the leader. Yeah. Anyway, but I'll tell you what, unfortunately, I felt like horrible in a moment of time. Fortunately, what I learned is, oh, this is how it feels for people, for my ideal clients, when they don't experience getting God. This is how it feels. So it helped me connect with what it feels like to be misunderstood, unseen. I have this theory that our calling, our core wound is the source of our calling. For me, it's being misunderstood and
Mm,
misread. Hence, what do I teach people how to do? Be understood. As God is my witness. I'll die on this hill for you, in that way. And
right.
so having that experience was, it was, we don't see the fortunately part till after we're out of the unfortunately.
So, messaging is your big thing, obviously, but when working with people, tell me, this was always an issue for me. I've mentioned it many times in interviews, is that people get stuck. And so you can get stuck in your message because you're embarrassed. You can get stuck in reaching out because you fear rejection. You can be stuck in networking just because you feel like you just don't feel like you belong there or whatever. So there are these places that we have to go to get clients. And it's not and in some ways, a great message is a magical formula. If you finally get it down, you embody it, it comes out naturally, and people start getting what I call a "that's for me" response. It's like, oh, tell me more about that. That sounds interesting. How do you do that? As opposed to, how nice for you. So, what what kind of stuckness do you see in professionals that are getting out there?
All of the things you mentioned, embarrassed, fear of rejection, um, getting it wrong, looking stupid. I'm just saying quotes that I've heard from people.
Sure.
I collect, as part of my own market research, when I talk to people, one of the questions I always ask is, well, I'll say, what do you do? And then they tell me, and then I go, oh, okay, I understood that. Is it this? And they'll go, yeah. I go, so what is stopping you from just saying, ta-da, here's what's up? What's the thing? And it all comes down to fear. Oh, here's what it really comes down to. It really comes down to a story they've made up about what catastrophic thing will happen if they dare to just state what's so, to say, here's the truth about what I do. Here are the facts. What I do, I help entrepreneurs learn how to answer the question, what do you do? So that they attract clients and make money. That's just a fact. It's like my shoe size and the color of my eyes. I'm just stating, so people make up a story, they tell themselves a story that what they're going to say is going to have an impact that will be horrible, not land, whatever. Where my job is like guiding them to see, if you were just going to state the facts about what you do and how you help people, what would you say? If you were just going to tell the truth, what would you say? Unvarnished.
Yeah.
So I think where they get really stuck, they are unaware. It's a lack of awareness about the voices in their head that are, let's just say it, talking shit to them about why they can't just say a straightforward sentence. There's a fear of being straightforward, and I won't go into moms and parents and family dynamics because blah blah blah. But there's this holdback. I call it a holdback, and it's
Yeah.
all made up, and it feels real. It feels like the truth, and they hit that wall of terror, and then boom, the message doesn't land. So I guide them to get, first we got to know thine enemy, look at it, acknowledge, and then it changes the relationship with the voices in their head. But here's my formula. It's like a little math thing, and I'm not even a mathy person. Clarity about what you offer, plus a focused audience, knowing who you're talking to, plus a simple sentence to say about it equals confidence. Confidence is the natural outcome when we have clarity about what we offer, who we serve, and what result we deliver. Then it's easy. Well, let me not say easy. It's simpler,
Easier. Yeah.
easier to own it and
Yeah.
express it, because I stand, like, my job, because I know my purpose is to always be owning and standing for and expressing what I do and teaching others to do the same. It's that. But the formula is who's the who, what's the what one sentence is going to communicate all of it in such a way that the right people go, oh my God, I need you.
But you mentioned an interesting thing in that it's a mind issue. It's about our thoughts, our beliefs, our fears, our doubts, our emotions. I mean, it's all our self-worth, for God's sake. Who am I to say I can do X?
I've
And
heard
so,
that quote. Yep.
yeah, so we have to work through that. And if we just the words are important, obviously. If you don't have the words, and the words connect to the feeling and who you're speaking to and the results. But it takes some practice and it takes some thinking it through and sort of imagining in your head. Or sometimes I've had people do, well, write a conversation. You say this, what are they likely to say? How would you respond to that? Sort of play it through, just
Role
like an
playing.
actor would do it. In a way, when you're at a networking event, you're on stage in your business when someone says, what do you do? And if you were
Oh,
an
yeah.
actor in a play and didn't have the lines down and you weren't convinced of that character, you're not selling that character. So it takes more work than we realize, internal work, and that work it takes some practice. Do you encourage people to do mirror work or video work? You don't.
No. Because when we're, pardon me, people, that's just you think it's going to be easier, but it's actually I call it like it's a little deadening. It has to, here's my theory. It has to, the speaking of it, because mirror work is another variation. It's the cousin of memorization, and memorization is the booby prize. So using your analogy of an actor on stage, I've watched a lot of actors' studios and comedians, like how stand-up comics create a bit. Well, how do they know it's work? I like how things work. And one of the things I just wrote about recently is how do you keep it fresh? How do actors keep it fresh? Like your elevator pitch is a Broadway show. You're saying the same thing all the
Short, very
time,
short Broadway show.
a short Broadway show, and you're
Yes.
telling a little story. It's a little story with a beginning, a middle, and it leaves a satisfying finish, right? All in one little tiny package minus adjectives and jargon and other things that don't serve and where you went to school. But how do we keep it fresh? Keep it from, because if an actor is speaking from their head, they've memorized the script, and you're having the experience of watching them, you can tell they're in their head. That's why when we see certain actors, we're like, ugh, I'm not going to name names, Madonna, but, you can, I've had the misfortune to watch her in certain things, and you can see her watching herself and
Yes.
remember, like, right? It's a feel thing. You
Not true
get it
when
or
she's
you,
singing. That's a different thing.
that's her area, right? Like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
not everybody is built to be an actor. Um, so, but it's like there's a way to, like, so connecting with the room when I'm writing. Like, I read about writing, like, how does writing happen? How do we write in such a way? And the message is designed for the medium in which it's presented. if I'm writing an email newsletter, in my mind, I'm like, dear pen pal, dear Mac, dearly, like, hi friend. And I'm like, here's what's going on and blah, blah, blah. And I thought this about it. And I swear to God, people write back. I had the former mayor of a big town in Virginia, write back and go, I'm not a client of yours. I probably never will be. But if I ran a corporate board, I'd want you on it. You cut to the chase. I was like, wow, that's incredible. So we have to know it and also speak it, own it, write it, whether we're speaking or writing or marketing it. Ourselves has to be there. We have to be thinking about who's receiving this transmission. Who am I writing for? When I worked at CBS Radio, I don't know why, every story I wrote for radio, I pictured a guy in his shower, taking a shower in New York City, listening to news radio, WCBS. And my intention as I wrote was to get this guy to stop lathering and listen to my story.
What was that?
Right, wait, what? What's happening? I lived in the Philippines in Johannesburg. That's where I filed from. But when you put that, it's like, when we're marketing, it's that us, it's that sense of us. We are who shows up, right? My business is an entity, but it's my voice. So taking ownership of that voice, you said something about people, their minds, like I'll never say, yeah, first we're going to work on your mindset. I never use the word mindset. Why? Because people who come to me don't say I need mindset work. Oh, I know they do. Otherwise they could answer the question, what do you do? That's why they're here. But I call it words and music. Having the words, awesome. And the music part is the energetic way in which you stand there and say or write them, market them. What am I holding? Am I afraid? Am I holding back? Oh, I can't say that if I'm self-editing. Oh, people are going to think, who am I to? I know all the thoughts in their head, right? That's content. All the thoughts in my people's heads is content for me to write about. Do you ever find yourself saying, oh, who am I to? Well, here's bop, and then I throw my 2 cents in about it. And that takes knowing, like, I know who I am and who I'm not. I know what my brand is and what it isn't. And it's the shadow and the light. So, this gets I know we're getting deep here about how to answer the question, what do you do? But I think it goes deep. It's, who am I? Who am I? I am the one. I have a position and a point of view. And I dare to say it out loud and let you know, dear person, how I may be of service to you. That's the anatomy of that.
So this part of the conversation started with the question about doing mirror work, and you said no, which is interesting because I found it one of the most powerful things I've ever done.
Did you?
Yeah.
Tell me, what did you find powerful about that?
Well, I learned it in a course I took years and years ago, and I remembered, it just stuck in my mind. Practice in front of the mirror until you get how great you are. And so to do that, you have to really be present with the person in the mirror. And something shifts. It's like so I spent, now the great thing about Zoom is like a mirror. It's like looking in the mirror, and then you can record it and you see later. But I've spent hours just talking to, I'm not certifiable, but just talking, practicing a talk or exploring ideas. So I'm just talking to myself in present time. And that has been really, really valuable. And I can stand in front of a group now and get people's interest like that because I'm able to be present in the moment and know how great I am. How great I am is not like, oh, aren't you wonderful? But it's like, you just know you're here and aware. And anyway, so I found mirror work or
Well,
Zoom work to be very powerful.
I'm taking this under advisement, hearing your description of that, and thank you for elaborating. What I'm hearing is it's you push through the confrontational part of being with yourself and being present with yourself.
Yeah.
And that's where the thoughts about ourselves and, like I was faffing with my hair when we first got on, like, oh my God, my hair, my lip, do I have lipstick on? Uh,
You have to get beyond that.
right. And it's, can I look at myself and be with myself? Because frankly, now that you mention it, that is the first step. What I have seen and why I go, yeah, maybe at 15, like it might be, I'm reconsidering my position now based on what you said. And it's okay, set a timer for 10 minutes and do the mirror work. And then this is must do, not negotiable. Go out with human beings and now say it.
Yes.
Because I think there's a part of what I've seen happen. People use the mirror work as a way to avoid saying it in person, and it's a kind of the cousin of memorizing. Not denigrating memorizing, but an introduction. The answer to the question, "What do you do?" is it comes from a be with. What am I wanting for my people? It's not about me; it's about them, right? Connection, and I'm going to argue mirror work, yes, and right. Don't mistake it for something else.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I love a good, I wouldn't even call it a disagreement. I love your perspective.
Yeah. Well, I found it valuable to get clear on certain ideas, and it wasn't necessarily putting together a talk, but I'm trying to figure out what I want to express about things. And I've done a lot since I officially retired over a year ago. So I keep myself busy doing wacky things like that.
I love it. And I love that you made up this project, you created a game called Ordinary Visionaries.
Yes.
Yay! Right? Because I think about people, like I'm a big Bruce Springsteen follower, and Bruce Springsteen, his business is Bruce Springsteen Inc. And, he's got all the money. He's done all the things. Why would you bother to keep creating, right? I wonder about, if I talked to Bruce, I would ask him, how do you keep yourself jazzed to create? And you created, I noticed when you launched this, I went, oh, that's interesting. Like when we achieve something, what's the new game I want to make up to play? And I love that you made this one up.
Yeah, the fun thing about this is I've been teaching people. I've been an educator, very much like yourself. I did it for almost 40 years. And at a certain point, I said, "Okay, I'm done. Now what?" And then I spent a certain amount of time thinking about what I could do, and then it just emerged. And and then the words emerged. Ordinary visionaries. I like that because it's sort of a contradictory.
It's got words and music.
It's got words and music. And then I invited people, and I just booked my calendar. I've been meeting 2 people a week for the last almost a year. And so I really want to thank you for this interview. It was fun. It's fun hearing a colleague that did similar kind of work, and you really encapsulated it in brilliantly. Really understand what you're doing, how you're doing it, why you're doing it, why it's important. So thank you for being out there doing it, and thank you for doing the interview.
And thank you for your presence and for the invitation. It was a pleasure and a delight to meet you, Robert.
Vice versa.